Welcome to a new season in our lives. We are on a mission to demolish the arguments that have kept us from taking our next step towards true Christian authenticity. Are you ready to tear down those self-protective masks that are holding you back in life, in business, in relationships? It's about mindset, but more specifically, learning to keep our minds set on Christ regardless of circumstance. This is the Mindset School podcast. I'm your host, Peggy Easterling. Let's be real, okay? Are you ready? Let's go. Have you ever stood at the edge of something big? And I mean something that feels ginormous that God's calling you to, but fear kept you frozen, absolutely stuck in that moment. If that's you, then this episode is for you, because today we're talking about that moment, the moment when the door opens, the fear hits you, and you have to decide, will I take the next step? Welcome back to a new season of the Mindset School podcast. I'm your host, Peggy Easterling. I'm so glad you've joined me here. Let me take you back to when I was 18 years old. Here I was, standing at the open door of an airplane. Yes, an airplane. I decided to go skydiving for the very first time. So this was a graduation gift from my aunt, and I was pumped about jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. Let's be real, though. I was also absolutely terrified at the same time. I'd never been on a plane before, and here I was about to jump out of one. Before we took off, we went through ground training. The instructor walked me through exactly what was going to happen. We didn't just have a conversation about it. We walked through it step by step, multiple times, where to put my arms, where to position my feet, how to align perfectly with the guy that I was jumping tandem with. Tandem meaning he was attached to my back. He had the parachute, and we were going to do this together. And so this tandem skydive meant I wasn't alone in any point during the process. I was strapped to an expert who had done this hundreds of times. And my only instructions were to trust his lead. Simple, right? Follow his instructions and trust his lead until the moment the door opened. I scooted to the edge just like I had been told to. But when I looked down and I looked out at the jump that was ahead, panic hit me in that moment like a freight train. My body went into absolute full fight, flight, freeze mode. Everything logical went out the window. I saw a small metal step attached to the plane. And in this little bitty piece of metal, it wasn't for pushing off. It was simply for me, as we had practiced, to align my foot next to his so that my body would be perfectly aligned with the instructor before he launched us with his push out of the plane. But in my fear, I was not having it. I wanted the big step. I wanted the one the instructor was supposed to use. I wanted security. I wanted control. So what did I do in that moment in the air? I fought him probably 10 times. I tried to reposition myself, desperately trying to plant my foot on something bigger, something that felt safer. Reflectively, I realized something. This is exactly what so many Christian entrepreneurs do. You say yes to the calling. You start the preparation. You start the learning. You get equipped. And then the door opens. And you see the magnitude of what God has for you. And suddenly, fear takes over your body. And instead of trusting Him, you start grabbing for control, trying to plant your feet on something that feels more secure. You want to know what probably would have happened if I would have kept fighting that instructor? He probably would have had to circle the plane back and land it. No jump, no experience, no breakthrough. And that's what so many people do. They talk about launching a business. They talk about starting that nonprofit or stepping into that calling. And then the door opens and they freeze. They fight and they miss a moment. This reminds me of Peter in Matthew 14, verses 28 and 29. Peter actually asked Jesus if he could come out on the water. And Jesus said, come. And Peter stepped out. But then what happened next? He saw the waves, the wind, the impossible nature of what he was doing. And he sank. Jesus didn't tell Peter to take a blind leap of faith. I say this so many times to my client. If I'm wrong, please correct me and show me where. But when you hear Christians say, take a leap of faith, take a leap of faith, really? What he asks us to take is one step of faith. A step of faith is what the Bible teaches us. There's some footing there. He says that his word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. And yeah, it may look foggy, but there's a light illuminating the path before us. Back in the plane, after my little power struggle, I finally surrendered. I placed my foot as instructed and I aligned with the instructor and we jumped. And you know what happened next? I thought I was going to lose my stomach like a roller coaster. But that didn't happen. Yeah, there was some wind pressure at first and my cheeks were jiggling. But once I relaxed into the parachute, it was so peaceful. It was so absolutely beautiful. It was just floating and taking in the view. This is what surrendering to God looks like. It doesn't mean we sit back and do nothing. It does mean that we stop striving, stop forcing, stop trying to make our identity about where we're going instead of who we already are in Him. God isn't asking us to take a leap into the unknown. He's asking you to trust Him with the next step that He's calling you to. Like I said, I don't believe in taking a leap of faith. Nowhere in Scripture does God call us to be reckless without direction. He calls us to the next step. So when fear hits and that door opens, these are 4 practical, very practical business steps to move forward. Number 1, clarify the next micro step. Instead of obsessing over the big, overwhelming vision, identify one next thing you can do to take action right now with what's in your hands. Number 2, get accountability. Fear thrives in isolation. Oh my goodness, y'all. Isolation is exactly what so many of us Christians are doing. We are sitting and doom scrolling instead of going out, spending time with people that we love and we care about. Surround yourself with mentors, with coaches, with a faith-based business group that keeps you aligned and moving forward. Also, personally, connect and have accountability in your life to let go of the business and to have some time in your calendar to spend space with the people you love the most. It is so important. Number 3, detach from your outcome. Stop fixating on how everything will unfold. Just show up, take the step, trust God is handling the results. If you already can see the next step that he's illuminated for you, you've clarified that next micro step, then detach from what the outcome will be if you take the step. Know that God can handle the results, whatever they are. Yeah, it's scary. It's absolutely terrifying sometimes. But if God is calling you to take that next step, whatever it is, he will get you through it. The next thing, number 4, is schedule the jump. Fear feeds on procrastination. Put a real date in the calendar for your next big move, whatever that is, whether it's pitching or launching or investing yourself, your next big event that's a year away already. Put it in the calendar. Work backwards. Figure out what is a micro step. Right now, maybe today, you feel called to have an event in a year from now. What do you need to do today in order to make that happen? Maybe you feel called to write a book and tell your story. What do you need to do today to get started? Maybe you feel called to entrepreneurship and you want to take that first step in breaking out of that job that has been a dead end, that you do not like what it does to your mental health. Take a micro step, but schedule the jump. So maybe the jump isn't today, but what do you need to do today to do the ground training, to do the walkthrough, to prepare your parachute in order for it to be ready on the day of the jump? That is something that you can work towards. Yes, we have things that we feel called to do. And if we aren't taking the next step, then we will never get to the destination. Sometimes whenever it's time to go on a trip, my husband laughs at how many bags I bring on a trip to prepare. And I don't want to be without the shoes that go with the outfit, okay? And so sometimes, especially road trips, it's time to go. I'm going to get my stuff in the car. And if I never get in the car and I'm only packing for the trip, then I'm never going to be in the car to get to the destination. So maybe that's you in entrepreneurship. You've packed your bags. You've made an open door to what God's calling you to do. But maybe now it's time to get in the car and put it in drive. Because if you're headed on your next trip down the road, you'll never get to your destination if you keep the car in park. So the question isn't today, will you jump? The real question is, will you take the next step and surrender control to God? Until next time, take a deep breath. Take the next step. Let go of the fear. And remember, you're never walking alone. Thank you for joining me today on our journey towards Christian authenticity and a Christ-centered mindset. Remember, the masks that we wear not only hide our true selves, but also keep us held back, living small in life, in business, and in relationships. As we wrap up, I invite you to take a crucial step towards your breakthrough. I created the Breakthrough Quiz just for you. Head over to themindsetSchool.net/quiz and dive in to discover a guide to move you closer to your authentic self and renewing your mind God's way. Until next time, let's be real, okay?